What's up, YouTube? I'm Mike, and today I'm back with the What It's Really Like to Be Homeless series, back by popular demand. I was actually sitting here trying to come up with some content to make today, and so I asked in my Discord, and this is what everybody requested. Let me do my camera adjustment per fucking usual. I'm gonna try to speed this story along. Where I left you last time, my mom was divorcing my dad, which I had no intention on going down this road. It just fucking came out like so many other things in these videos that I make. So I'm gonna try to bring this together real quick and get back to the actual point of this series, which is what it's really like to be homeless. So, when I left you, I had designs basically on being an emotionless Terminator when I got older. And as fate would have it, I've gotten pretty goddamn close. But one thing did lead to another in my childhood home, and my mother did actually divorce my father. It ended up being way uglier than I kind of had suspected. You know, I had imagined when she originally asked me what my opinion of the situation was. And I guess when I say ugly, you know, it's like, I was still pro the divorce, like when she started pushing it. But, you know, like, there's fucking consequences to that decision. You know, like, dad's a dick. You know, you and dad don't have much of a relationship. But, you know, you've got a nice big 3-bedroom, 2-bath, living room, playroom. Like, we had this whole den that was like a playroom. We had a basketball goal on the garage. We had a backyard. Lived in a nice neighborhood. You know, there was a lot of perks to living with dad. We had cable, you know, where I could watch Terminator. And so my mom, you know, goes looking for. She gets a job. My mom was had a degree in child development or something. I forget what it is. She basically is a teacher. And so she starts looking for these jobs. Well, you know, it's not a lot of fucking money. And so she ends up leaving my dad, and we move into this little, like, tiny fucking shoebox of a house on the other side of town. Well, the other side of town. We lived in this city called Mesquite. It's a little tiny suburb of Dallas. It was actually kind of nice back in the day before it turned into the ghetto, which is what it is now. Weird how that happens. But nevertheless, it was a great area to grow up in. But it was like kind of on one side of the river was the nicer new homes, and then on the other side of this little creek was all of the, you know, like the little tiny shoeboxes. And so that's what mom could afford. And so that was a huge step backwards in life. And but I didn't really give a shit because we had this huge backyard, this giant tree, which is where I spent, like I said, I think in one of my videos, most of my childhood, I spent up a tree with a book. And so I was quite content in the beginning to have this, you know, this house with this big climbing tree. The problem is that the second that dad was in the picture, was out of the picture, I started to slowly but surely understand what my dad and mom had been going through, or I should say what my dad had been going through. My mom is a very, 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 very brilliant, talented artist. She was like the fucking greatest mom you could possibly imagine to young children. She's got my young children right now, and they absolutely adore her. Her fucking wheelhouse in life is taking care of young children. She can play all the games and do all the child development things. Just, I mean, even now at 70 years old, she's just nonstop with these kids. But the problem with my mom is I think she was abused. I think she was sexually abused as a child, and she doesn't have any capacity to cope with boys, especially once they hit puberty. And so that was the thing. Like, what I also didn't realize with all these problems that I had started to really come to a head with my dad at the time when my parents were living together, because I was too young to really know, I was starting puberty. And so me and dad, who already had a bad relationship, were beginning to have an even more volatile relationship because I was standing up for myself more because my testosterone was kicking in a fucking major way. This is something I've gone through with both of my boys. And it is a trying time for a father. You have to know how to lovingly but directly put them in their fucking place. You know, I've had to let both my sons know. It's the reason one of my sons doesn't live here anymore. That I'm the king of this fucking castle. And you can have all the freedom you want to grow and mature as a man, but you don't ever fucking challenge me or my dominion, or that will be your ass. And but the thing that's different with my kids is that we already have a really, really great father-son relationship, and so they have already seen my authority and had respect for me since they were small children. Like, I never did anything to lose their respect. I had no respect for my father. And so when puberty kicks in and you already don't respect this authority figure, by nature, you are going to lash out against it in a major way. So when dad's gone, now the new authority figure is mom. And when my dad wasn't around for my mom to basically unload all of her shit on, which I was at this point was unbeknownst to me, that shit started landing on me. And so as I grew, and then now all of a sudden mom's also going through some hard times because she's barely able to make enough money to make ends meet. She's going through a divorce with my dad that I think actually got kind of ugly. And she's living in this, we're all in this really shitty, cramped quarters. My mom is one of these, she's really prone to illness. My mom gets sick a lot. She's like allergic to everything under the sun. She's got a lot of psychosomatic disorders. She's kind of batshit crazy. That's the thing. If I'm being completely honest, my mom's a fucking lunatic. Very, which is common amongst people who are extremely, disproportionately artistic. They tend to not have the greatest of grip on reality. And it was when I had seen signs and symptoms, growing up. Like, my mom would lie a lot. She would tell adults that I had done things that I didn't do, but she would always tell it in this enhancing kind of way. So she would brag up on me a lot. And when you're a kid and your mom is constantly bragging up on you, you don't really it doesn't really set off any alarm bells, because you're getting praise. So you're like, yeah, I'm the shit. Mom's really embellishing here, but I'll take the praise. What you don't realize when you're a young child and you witness this happening with your parent is this embellishment is pathological. My mom is a pathological liar. She cannot, for the life of her, just tell a story the way it happened. And so most of the things that I was exposed to as a child were her embellishments to the positive. But she also massively over-exaggerates to the negative. She basically never tells a thing the way it truly happened. She's always got to add some sense of flair to it to make it seem better than it is. It's like the truth is never good enough for her. She has to add her own touch to it. And it wouldn't be such a problem, but that it's pathological. And so there basically is no truth in her. And when you try to have a meaningful relationship with a person like this, it can be very difficult. Because unfortunately, both of you are not operating, you're not operating from the same reality. She's operating from this fictitious world that doesn't exist. And you're trying to come at things from what actually happened. And but at that point in my childhood, I didn't know what a pathological liar was. I didn't know that she was sick. And so she started taking out a lot of shit on me. And then I kind of became her whipping boy. So when my dad wasn't around for her to unload all of her fucking bullshit on and blame all of her failures on and blame all of her fucking shortcomings on, that shit started landing on me. The other thing that I would later find out is that my mother suffers from Munchausen's by proxy syndrome. She's one of these people who sort of gets off on, that's not really the right term. She kind of, she gets some kind of mental reward when something it happens negatively to someone else. So that she would often upplay our illnesses, she was always, let me just read this. Munchausen syndrome, also known as facetious disorder imposed on self, is a rare psychological condition where someone intentionally causes or feigns symptoms of illness or injury to gain attention, sympathy, or reassurance. People with Munchausen syndrome may lie about symptoms, sabotage medical tests, or harm themselves to create symptoms. They may even do this when there's no obvious external rewards such as financial gains or medications. So the thing with my mom is during my entire childhood, she was always sick. She would go to the doctor and she would come back with these fucking terrifying diagnoses. She came back from the doctor one time, she told us that she had lupus. She told us she had fibromyalgia. She told us that she thought she had MS for a while. I can't even remember all of the things. But she would come home with these diagnoses. God knows if the doctor ever actually diagnosed this shit. But she would tell us kids this. When she told us she had lupus, we thought she was fucking dying. That's scary shit for a kid to think they're fucking, you're 9 years old, your mom comes home and she's distraught looking, and she tells you she's got this fucking really serious neurological or lupus, what is that, like nervous system disease or some shit, and she would always come home with medication. And every fucking time, lo and behold, she would take this, whatever the medication. 30 minutes later, she'd be puking her fucking guts up in the toilet. She was allergic to every drug they prescribed her, supposedly. If you ask my mom what drugs she can't take, the list is 10 fucking miles long. Later on in life, what I decided was actually happening was that my mother was going to the doctor and she was lying. She was lying to the doctor about these symptoms of various illnesses, and they were misdiagnosing her based on her lies that she was at least cognitive enough to understand. So then they would give her drugs to treat this fairy tale condition. She would come home, take the drugs knowing that she didn't need them and that they could possibly fuck her up. Then she would induce vomiting and say, oh, can't take that drug. Oh well, I guess I'll have to live with the condition. You see how fucked up this is? You see how pathological this shit is? My mom is a fucking lunatic. And so I was kind of insulated from this shit as a child because she dumped it all on my dad. My dad was the one that was having to deal with all of this truth and this scary fucking nonsense. And it's no wonder he didn't have a whole lot of fucking care for her. It's very hard to be emotionally connected to a person that's like this, because they will rip your fucking heart out. They will constantly emotionally abuse you, even if it's not intentional, by sucking you into their twisted, deluded fucking world. And so now that Dad's gone, living in this little apartment, down the street, I'm stuck at home with my mom, and she's unloading all of her problems and shit on me. This is when I start to find out my mom has got this other really weird kind of blame-like behavior. Where, I'll wake up in the morning and feel a little bit sick. I'll be like, I don't know, Mom, I don't feel very good. She's, you better stay home from school. Okay, yeah, cool, I'll stay home from school. So then she calls into work and she can't come to work. Well, I'm all of a sudden, we're missing school left and fucking right when we're not even really, really sick. Then she gets fired from her job because she's missing too much work. And then she blames me. Then she turns around and tries to blame me and my brother. She can't keep a job because we're always sick. It's like, bitch, what? I don't have any diagnoses. I didn't go to the fucking doctor. You just told me to stay home from school. I don't want to go to school. Cool, I'll stay home from fucking school. The number of times I supposedly had pink eye, strep throat, bronchitis as a kid. Meanwhile, these things were never documented. My children actually go to see my pediatrician. So the doctor that I had as a child he was a young guy when I started going to see him. He was kind of fresh out of school. My mom really liked him. So he's still practicing. I think he's coming up on retirement. But I have actually had him. My wife and I have talked to our kid's pediatrician, had him pull all my medical records, and he confirmed that I don't have. I think I had strep throat one time my entire childhood. I never had bronchitis. My mom, see, like, you see that right there? What I just did? If I had cough like that at home in front of my mom, I would stay at home from school with bronchitis. Any kind of cough that produced phlegm, bronchitis. Sore throat, strep throat. Can't go to school. Wake up a little red-eyed in the morning, pink eye. Can't go to school for a fucking week. I was never on medication for any of this shit. So I had all these overlaying diagnoses that were leading to my mom missing work. And then when she would get fired from her fucking job, she would blame the shit on me. So one thing starts leading to another, Our relationship starts rapidly going into the shitter. I'm proceeding through fucking puberty. I'm becoming more and more, disrespectful, pushing the boundaries more, standing up for myself more. Me and my brother fight like cats and fucking dogs. Oh. My fucking brother has now become the baby Brian. Baby Brian doesn't do anything wrong. He's still somehow, that I will never understand, the chosen one. So all that time she spent fighting with my dad over the fact that he didn't have enough of a relationship with me, once I moved in with her, she was still preferential of my brother too. And so the whole thing, I very quickly began to realize this shit didn't have anything to fucking do with me. My mother will just fight to fucking fight. She will just manufacture shit to fight about. And since I was kind of a problem child at that point, it was easy to point the finger. And so she and my dad would fight over me when I don't think that really had fuck all to do with the situation. But that definitively fucked up the relationship that my dad and I had. Because my mom's constantly going to my dad saying, you're a piece of shit father. And that I'm telling her things about him. And so this is this round and round fucking sick ass circle, when the reality is my mom was just fucked up. And she was just using me as something as the basis to start an argument with him. And so now he's gone and she's attacking me for her losing her jobs. And then I start hearing that age-old thing. If you've ever been a child of divorce and you're a male, you've probably heard this shit some point in your life. You're just like your daddy. You're just like your daddy. Every fucking thing I did wrong was just like my daddy. And so all of a sudden, me and mom do nothing but fucking fight. And there were multiple fucking times where this shit would come to a head, and I would call my dad and I'd be like, I want to come live with you. And he'd always be like, okay, but he was like smart enough to know, there's some like flare up kind of shit. And so I'd call him in the heat of battle, and he'd be like, okay, well, I'll call you tomorrow and we'll figure something out. And then what would happen is, once my mom heard me tell my dad I wanted to come live with him, then she would go into recovery mode. And she'd just fucking fall on her sword. She would start apologizing, please don't leave, we're gonna work this out. And man, I fell for that shit every fucking time. Every fucking time my mom would try to beg me not to leave, no matter how abusive the shit she was doing was, I still had a heart, that was my mom. She was the one that had my back all of those years when I was young. She was the one that helped me with all my learning. She was the one that did all the arts and crafts projects with me, took me places to keep me away from my dad, to protect me from my evil father. All this shit is still ingrained in me, man. I'm only fucking 12, almost 13 years old at this fucking point. So I'm still a very young kid trying to navigate all this shit. I didn't know Munchausen's by proxy. I didn't know pathological lying. I didn't have the understanding that I have now, but I knew something was all fucked up. And so we had a couple of big fucking blowouts. And then I had gotten to the point where she was struggling to discipline me. I was getting bigger and stronger, and she's like 5'4", and she's fat. She's a fat fuck. She definitely qualifies as a fat fuck that I talk about on my channel a lot. So she could kind of put her fat ass on me and use it as some leverage to kind of fucking control me. But I was getting more aggressive. And so she had taken to spanking me when I would get out of line. My whole childhood, I was always put in timeout. You guys know this from the previous video. It was always timeouts. Well, now I'm fucking 12 going on 13. My mom's decided at this point in life she would start spanking me. Fucking a little late in the game, Mom. So she was beating me, spanking me with this ping pong paddle. Is what she had been using on me. And it was like this plastic ping pong paddle. It wasn't like a wooden one. And it was hollow in the center. It was a total joke. You know, I'd wail, ah! And laugh when she left the room. And so I got tired of getting hit with it though. She used to hide that shit up on top of this hutch because she was afraid I was gonna get rid of it. Well, one day I was fucking looking for candy or money or something probably. And I had gotten up on a chair and I had found this fucking ping pong paddle she was beating my ass with up on top of this hutch. And I did throw that shit away. And so then we had this big blowout fight one day. I don't remember what the fuck it was about. Probably over fighting over my brother or some trumped up charges she'd come up with. And she comes to my room. She's pissed the fuck off because she can't find that paddle. She cannot find it. I guess she probably realized that I must have fucking found it and gotten rid of it. And you remember back in the day, we used to have fly swatters? You remember that shit? And the fly swatter would have that little flimsy, that you probably still get them today, but the fly swatter had that little flimsy plastic piece on top, but the handle was made out of wire and it would kind of crisscross. It would crisscross and then there'd be two prongs that would stick into the little flappy part that you would slap the shit out of the flies with. Well, she decides she's gonna beat my ass and she can't find that ping pong paddle. She grabs a fly swatter. Okay, again, now I'm like 12 years old, so I'm probably 100 pounds, maybe. 100 pounds, 110 pounds maybe. My mom's 5'4". She's probably 200, 180, 200. She's a big one. She's a big one. She had that weird shape. It was like a pear. She had like little tiny shoulders and then boom, big fat ass and then down to the legs. She comes flying, you know, she came waddling. She came waddling into my bedroom, which my bedroom is the size of a fucking closet in this tiny ass little house we're living in with fucking window units. And she commences to try to start beating my ass with this with this fly swatter. And I'm trying to get away from her. And she kind of sits on me. She traps me on the bed. She's sitting on me. And I'm kind of sitting like this. And she's sitting on like right here with her big fat fucking ass sitting on me. I can't barely fucking breathe. She's going to fly swatting me with this thing. And she's beating me, but she can't get to my butt because of the way she's got me pinned to the bed. And so all she's doing is beating the shit out of the side of my quads and hamstrings. Well, she's lost her fucking mind hitting me with this fly swatter. And in the middle of all the struggling and beating, the plastic part comes off this fly swatter and she's whacking me across my legs with just the metal wire. That shit hurt. And I took a couple of fucking licks from that metal wire and had enough. And she's sitting on me like this. And I went, "Argh!" And I shoved her ass up off me. Well, once you get a woman that's shaped like a pear, once you overcome inertia, and you get this bowling ball ass up and moving around the room, she's not gonna be able to control it. So she comes flying up off me, stumbles, falls into the fucking closet. I'm looking at her, and what does this bitch do? She starts screaming, "Don't you ever fucking put your hands on me! You don't hit me!" She comes completely unglued, which honestly kind of scared shit out of me for a minute, because I'm like, what the hell did I do? You're over here beating me with a wire, and now I'm in trouble for fucking trying not to be suffocated by your fat ass? So I should get her off me. She goes straight into her bedroom and calls her dad, my grandfather, who's about twice her size. And she hands me the phone, and my grandfather I haven't seen in fucking years. They lived in Bridgeport. I had no relationship with these people. He's screaming at me on the phone, "I'm gonna come down there and kick your ass." And I was kind of so done with it. I said, "You know what, old man? Why don't you bring your fat ass down here? Why don't you come on down here? You know what? I'm sick and tired of everybody talking shit. Everybody wants to run their fucking mouth. Come on down here." You know, because like I said, I'm full-blown puberty now. At this point, I am, I was still 12. I was very close to turning 13. You know what? I might have just been past 13. I can't remember. It was very close. And so, the whole time I'm on the phone with my grandfather is threatening to come kick my ass. My little brother's sitting on her bed. He's punching me in the back of the fucking head, talking about, "You don't hit my mama." And I'm trying to get him off of me while this old man is threatening to kick my ass. And I'm looking at my mom and she's like, Brian defends his mother. And I'm like, wow. What is this, the fucking Nuremberg trials? So I got my brother beating me in the back of the head. I got my grandfather telling me he's gonna come kick my ass. The whole time my mom is letting my brother beat me in the back of the head because she's proud of him for standing up for her. Done. I'm fucking done. I'm out of here. Call my dad. I want the fuck out of here. Come get me out of this fucking hellhole. I explained to him the whole shit. He's like, okay, I'm gonna be over there tomorrow. Okay. So I go to bed. Here comes the hard part. I've been trying to keep it together. So I go to bed, and I'm laying in my bed, and she starts doing what she usually does. We all sleep with all the doors open, and I can hear her in her bedroom start sniffling. In times past, when I heard her crying, I would go in there and check on her. Fuck this bitch. Fuck this. So the sniffling turns into crying. And the crying turns into sobbing. And then the sobbing turns into wailing. And the louder that crying gets, the more my resolve starts to fucking, starts to rattle. Because I still have a heart, see? I'm just 12 years old. I haven't become the monster that I am today yet. The monster was still in the making. But back then, I still had a heart. And when hearing my mom cry tugged real hard at my heartstrings. But see, this is like the fourth strike now. She's done this multiple times. She's come into my bedroom at night and cried and gotten me to bend over, gotten me to back down off my threat, basically. She called my bluff multiple times by turning the waterworks on and making me a whole bunch of fucking promises. Promises that she never fucking kept. And when I heard that wailing, I just ignored it. And then sure enough, here I hear it. She climbs out of bed. She comes into my room. I'm laying on my back. She's standing next to me and she's like, Michael, please don't leave me. I'm sorry. She starts all her crying bullshit. And I rolled over. And I rolled over on my side and I started to cry. Because she was getting me. So I started to cry. And she could hear it or she could see it. One of the two. You know what I mean? Like, it must have been the movement of my shoulders, or maybe she could hear me kind of, kind of trying to catch my breath, but she heard it, and she turned the tears off, and she tried to reach for me. And when I felt her reach, I snapped, and I just pulled away from her. I said, don't fucking touch me. And so she sat there, and she started to crying again, and I laid there in that bed, just trying everything I could do to unplug whatever the fuck you would call a heart. Just telling myself she doesn't care about you. She doesn't mean it. She's not gonna stick to her word. She's just fucking manipulating you. You cannot trust this bitch. She's going to do this over and over and over again until somebody gets hurt. Basically you have to fucking stay strong. And I laid there crying while she was crying, and I just resisted. I refused to fucking bend. And eventually she walked out of the room and I went to sleep. And when I woke up the next morning, all those promises and tears she had the night before, ooh, that shit was gone. She was fucking livid. She was flying around that house like a fucking maniac. My dad was already on the way. And I start getting my shit packed up, and the more she can kind of see that she's lost the battle, the more out of control she becomes. She starts shoving me out of the way, coming to my room. She starts collecting all of my shit for me. And so I had been like kind of tediously putting everything into boxes and bags. And she starts like trying to speed the process up. Now she's gonna try to take some kind of control of the situation. So she starts grabbing various different things that I'd either boxed up or bagged up, or some of the shit that was loose, and she starts going out throwing it into the fucking front yard. There was one possession that I had that I really cared about. Like, I had one possession in that tiny little fucking shithole house we were living in at that time that really mattered to me at all. And that was my chessboard. My dad had bought me this really nice wooden chessboard with all the little carved pieces, and the lid slid apart, and you could put all the pieces and everything inside the board. And I fucking loved playing chess. And that chessboard, like, I kind of coveted it, even though it was kind of lesser than, because my best friend, who happened to be my wife's ex-husband, his dad had bought him a chessboard too, but they were way richer than we were. And so when my best friend had got his chessboard, his was made out of marble. The board was marble, the pieces were marble, it was immaculate looking. Now, this was made better by the fact that he never won a single fucking game against me with that very ornate marble chessboard. I whooped his ass every fucking time we played, but I still liked my goddamn wooden chessboard. It was my prized possession. And so I'm standing out in the front yard picking up the shit that she has thrown out into the front yard, and my dad has showed up. And I'm taking some shit to the car, and my dad is walking toward me to help pick up my belongings, and I hear my mom come busting out the door. She screamed some crazy shit. I don't know what the fuck it was. Something about me being an ungrateful little shit or something. And she had that chessboard in her hand, and she threw it. And it hit the fucking ground in the front yard, and it broke. I looked at my dad, he looked up at her, he looked at me, he looked at that chessboard, and he just shook his head. Like, God damn, bitch, really? That's what you're gonna do? And in most circumstances, I probably would have lost my fucking shit over that. But for some unknowable reason, I don't know if it's because I knew Dad was gonna replace it or what it was, but I knew that move on her part was so fucking low that it was indicative of how much she realized she had fucked up. She had been brought so low by my choice to stand up and leave her that she had sunk to the point of breaking her own child, her own 12-year-old child's prized fucking possession in life. That is where this bitch had gotten to. And when I saw that chessboard break, rather than being angry or sad about the board, I just became, in that moment, 100% resolved that I was making the right decision. Because walking away from your mother is fucking hard. If you had a mother that loved you like you were the fucking second coming since you were as young as you could remember, had nurtured you through every one of your developmental stages, had helped you with science fair projects, taught you games, helped you draw, decorated your room, took you to carnivals. Like, I could just sit here and talk for hours about all of the things, all of the, like, how valuable my mom was to me growing up. She was the most important person in my life. And in the period of 1 year, she had gone from this person that I respected and loved more than anyone else in the world to a woman who was breaking her son's prized fucking possession. And I just realized instantaneously, this bitch is evil. She is no one I ever thought she was. And it was just the beginning of a cascade of realizations about who my mom really was and who my dad really was, and the dynamic between two parents, and how easy it is for one parent to sway the child against the other. And it's just this sick fucking game that gets played out across America all day, every day. And to bring this finally to a close, where this eventually landed was my dad took me back to his place, and we got all set up, and he and I started working on rebuilding our relationship, or trying to have one, really. And I can't remember how long I'd been there. A few weeks, it seems like. I was definitively 13 by this point, and his sister worked for a lawyer, and he came home from work one day, and he had some legal documents, And because I was 13, at that time in the state of Texas, all I had to do, my mom had primary custody of me and my brother. So my dad was having to pay my mom child support. And because I was 13 at that point in the state of Texas, the only thing that was required to change that child support order was my signature. At 13, the court would recognize the child's decision. And so my dad came home with this document and he explained. He said, I need you to understand what you're doing. Okay, this is a big decision. If you sign this paperwork, you are saying that you don't ever want to live with your mother again and that you're choosing to come live with me. And I remember looking at that document and I could feel this shit happening, because that's a hard fucking decision to make. And the second the fucking tears started, just like they had always started with her when she would come into my room late at night and try to start that bullshit, I did in that moment what I used to do laying in my bed, and I bit down hard on my fucking lip. I used to hate the fact that she could make me cry. I didn't want anybody to see me cry. And I'd bite on the inside of my lip real hard to try to stanch the flow of the tears. And I bit down on my lip and I fucking channeled the anger and fucking signed my name on that paper. And just like that, it was done. And I didn't have a relationship with her. I barely saw her again after that day for almost 10 years. There was a couple of occasions where she might have been at a baseball game or something that my brother was at or something. But basically, from the moment I signed that document, my relationship with my mother, who had nurtured me through the first 12 years of my life, ended by my decision. And so when I tell you this story that we're going to be getting to next about how now here I am homeless and I'm looking for some place to go because dad's just said, fuck you. The only other place to go to at this point is mom. And so that's why I stopped in the pausing of that story so that you could understand when I get to mom's house why our relationship is the way that it is. Because at this point, it's not like we had no communication, but we really did not have a relationship of any kind at that point, and hadn't had one for an extended period of time. There was a short period of time where I had tried to rekindle a relationship with her when I was 19. I had a girlfriend at the time, and she and I were helping my mom when she bought this house, and she and I tried to rekindle a relationship with her, and that shit lasted for about I don't know, we were in between apartments, I guess, and we stayed at my mom's house for like 3 fucking weeks. My mom had invited us. She was trying to rekindle a relationship. She didn't care that I had a girlfriend at the time. We'd been living together, and so she invited my girlfriend and I over and said that we could stay at her place in between our apartment leases hooking up. And we were there for about 2 weeks until my mom had another one of her psychotic meltdowns. She threw us out of her house at 3:30 in the fucking morning in the cold one night because I don't even remember the reason. She got pissed off about something. So I had, over the course of 10 years or so that was 13 to 19, I had little to no communication with her. We would try to rebuild the relationship. She would always have some kind of fucking meltdown and tell me to fuck off, and I'd be gone for a little while longer. And so I guess 10 years is not really accurate. So but close. I mean, so basically we had no relationship from the point of 13 until here I am living on the street, or about to be living on the street at 21. And we had just had very, very limited communication between then and now. And so now that all of this is out of the way, I can get on with the story in the next episode, which I'll shoot today, I don't know, as to what happened when I got kicked out of my budget suite and then went to see what kind of assistance, if any, I would get from mom. So, there you have it. As always, thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next one.